I like to imagine that when people listen to this, it's because they're interested in hearing about bands that we're interviewing, but also I like to think maybe they're in bands themselves or starting out wanting to write music. Do you have any advice for, I mean, I think a lot of people going into it, the dream is, oh, I'm going to get signed and then record music and they're going to distribute it. I'm going to go on a big gold tour and all this other stuff. When in reality, that's not really how it all works. But what's your guys' situation right now? And do you have advice for on how other people can get to where you are? Because I think you guys are in a pretty cool place. Not to speak for you.
Because yeah, we're grateful to be where we're at in terms of that stuff. I think there's something to be said about like believing that you're the best at what you do. And I don't mean to say believing that you're the best or thinking that you're the greatest, but if you set out to do something that you believe in, then like showing up with that, whether it's at the show, whether it's at the recording session, and that's not to say that you don't have doubts about anything, but if there's any advice, I don't know, like be honest and show up when it's your time to show up.
And could I interject really quick?
Yeah.
I don't know if this even is necessarily, I don't know, this is just my like perception of it, because I know how much stuff that like Ben and Steve do and James is doing now, and just like in terms of like internet stuff, like all the whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know, I don't get, that's not like my thing. And I'm sure that all of that amazing work that they do is a big part of like being able to get out what we make together. So maybe that's a huge part of your question, but I don't know how to answer that one. But for me, it's like or for us even, it's like just why are you making what you're making, and how do you find a way to find the place in creating something where it makes you feel good and gives you purpose in life? And that's like my pursuit. And I don't know, I feel like every time I do that, like Steve's saying, just be honest about what you create and why you create. It doesn't matter what you're even creating or what, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, if it's coming from an honest place, then and it makes you feel good, I think that's what all of my favorite musicians inspired me when I heard them. You know, it's like, wow, this is like, this person's being who they are, and that's attractive. You know, it's like, that's a goal, because it's like, that's what we all want to do, right? It's like, find out who we are. And I don't know if...
yeah, it's almost like I don't know much Star Wars stuff, but it's like there is no try, there's just do. Like if you feel like you're trying to do something, then you might be missing the mark. But we may just be rambling. Ben, can you chime in here? We're gonna try to be quiet a little bit. And,
that was lovely and insightful. I thought it was great.
Oh, cheers.
As far as advice to like younger artists and things like that.
Sure.
What I mean, I'm struggling to think of something that's not a cliche. You know, like something to the effect of, just do it because you love it, you know, like put in the work, learn as much as you can about the music business, whether or not you agree with any of those philosophies. I think if you want to succeed in the music industry, I think you should try to learn as much as you can about the music industry.
Which is ever evolving, correct?
Right. Especially this year.
Yeah.
You know, and no one knows what's coming next,
No.
which has been just crazy, you know, for our band and for your band, I'm sure, and everyone else, you know, because when before in our lives have we been able to not really plan for anything for the future?
Yeah.
Never. Like like in our adult lives, like I can't remember ever being like, yeah, I mean, like I want to plan something for next summer, but like I can't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like
Um,
even today, we're lucky enough to be on this this cool list put up by the Alternative for like the best 75 records of the year, and we're super like I
Oh,
feel super
congrats.
grateful. Thanks so much. But I was like I'm bringing that up because like I'm grateful for that, but it feels a bit empty that we can't perform. You know, it's and I don't want to sound like a woe is me case either because everyone's in that same boat, but this idea that there's still so much of this music industry business happening on the internet, there's a little bit of disconnectedness that I'm feeling, and I don't know why I brought that up, and I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, we were kind of ragging on social media to start this whole thing off, and I think it's funny now if we bring it back. At least for our band's sake, we haven't released any new music, and we haven't really been able to work on anything due to the pandemic. And again, we're not playing shows, so it's really easy to feel like you've fallen off the face of the earth. And being somewhat, alive and kicking on Twitter or Instagram, that still kind of gives us a pulse, or we're poking at people who listen to our music to let them know we're still around and want to be working on things, but we can't. So that's definitely an interesting pro to the social media side of things.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And just to piggyback on what you guys were talking about when it came to advice, I'm sure you guys will agree with this this ideology. But so I was in a couple of bands before I was in this one, and the mindset in those bands for me, again, I was in maybe high school, was okay. I'm gonna join a band and we're gonna get signed and we're gonna release a record and we're gonna go on tour. And when you have that mindset, you can have goals for sure, but when you have that mindset of that's how it needs to work, it becomes it's like really stressful, and you're not able to kind of sit back and enjoy the really cool things that are going on. So when I joined Shark Club, my personal, I guess you could say, goal was to just have fun with everything that I did. And like everything else, if something happens, it happens. The fact that people like the music is just gravy. The fact that people come to the shows and sing. And if someone wants to help us out with a cassette tape release or something, that is so cool. And that has changed my perspective on doing music completely because I'm having so much more fun with it. Is that the way you guys kind of approach it? Like, and I asked earlier, do you write for yourself or for other people? For sure you write for yourself because it just makes sense.
I think one thing that may be a little bit unique about our band is that we actually don't really have a whole lot of fun sometimes. We get pretty stressed and we disagree. I'm talking about in regards to writing music specifically.
Well, I mean that could be difficult for a lot of people. We run into those issues too, but that whole collaborative process, while you're in there and kind of not at each other's throats about things, I'm sure you have a way of communicating. Yeah, maybe that right in that instance, it's not super fun, but when you look back on it, you say, wow, I was able to work on something with people that I enjoy being around, and at the end of the day I could say I'm really proud of what we worked on. Is that fair to say, Ben?
Oh no, that's totally fair to say. I meant in regards specifically to like being in the writing room, and just hashing out ideas and things like that. I mean, of course, like when it comes to touring and playing live, recording and all kinds of other band stuff, we have the best time in the world. But I meant specifically in terms of writing.
Yeah, and just to continue on with that, from my experience as an artist, in terms of, let's say, having goals and pursuing whatever the next step is, it's always felt to me like, it sounds super stupid, but the field of dreams thing, if you build it, they will come. Like, Tom's making a ruckus. I'm sorry. We're trying to get a phone charger here.
Oh, it's okay.
We've gotten a lot of opportunities, but we've also been very specific about what it is we want to do.
Sure.
And I remember before Ben and I had met, I had a couple opportunities to maybe record the stuff I was doing at the time, but it never did feel right. And then when Ben and I met, I remember the first time going to Ben, your house, which is where I am right now. Opening the back door, and it's as clear as day in my head. Like, I saw you. We were wearing a very similar outfit, and I just had this feeling of I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I was nervous. And we started I think we noticed early on we had a similar sensibility as far as like humor, and we kind of had a good time together, and we would just kind of vibed. And then Tom came along, and then the same thing happened. I remember when we were in the backyard one day during a recording session, and Tom and I just had a wild discussion about our thoughts on art and music. And I think when what you're doing as far as pursuing a goal lines up with it just kind of feeling right, you know, like that's then go for it. Like, we're one of those bands that has the story of we played the right show and the right person was there, and then we ended up on a label. Like, I didn't think that stuff could happen, but you know, like, I don't know.
What's so weird about it too is, like you said, like you opened the door and you looked into Ben's eyes and you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I started getting booked with the band I was with through Ben, because Ben was organizing shows with two of his different bands, and Steve was playing solo for a lot of those shows, and my band was playing, and I'm like, yo, I like really dig how Ben plays guitar, and I really dig like what like he's like his how he interacts with people. Like I like kind of when you first meet someone, you're like, I feel like we could be friends in a way that, like, I don't know, maybe I potentially choose my friends because I want to, there's someone that I'm interested in and I want to learn something from, but they have like a respectful disposition. So then I'm like, oh, cool. Like, let me mess with you a little bit. So then I started talking with him a whole bunch and whatnot. And then I saw Steve performing and I'm like, yo, this dude's crazy. And I started like giving him a hard time. Like, let me play drums on your stuff. He's like, actually, Ben and I are he's recording my record. I was like, oh, really? Like, cool. Like, whatever. He's like, yeah, we got 2 songs. Like, you want to come? Like, yeah. And then I just, like he said, it's like, it felt right to work with them. And so I just started showing up every time they had another session for the record, the first record, even if it was a guitar session or whatever. It was just like, I didn't think about it. It just felt right, and I just did it. So it's like, that's crazy. Like,
yeah. And then like our first tour, people asked us to come on. It's like, we feel very blessed as a band that like opportunities just seem to have fallen in our lap. But I think it's because we were all just doing something that we loved and had fun doing it then.